Hello everybody. Let us start with our topic asthma. So today we will be studying the presentation and the topic will be covered in the following points: definition, risk factors, triggers, pathophysiology of asthma, pathogenesis of asthma, pathology of asthma, types of asthma, clinical features, investigations, differential diagnosis, and management. Okay, now let us start with definition. So, asthma is a syndrome characterized by airflow obstruction in which patient harbors a special type of inflammation in the airways that make them more responsive than non-asthmatics to a wide range of triggers, leading to excessive narrowing with consequent reduced airflow and symptomatic wheezing and dyspnea. So now if we study the definition in parts, so we can understand here that it is a syndrome. Okay, so asthma is a syndrome, means it is a group of symptoms which is characterized by airflow obstruction. So the main condition here is there is airflow obstruction which leads to difficulty in breathing, in which the patient harbors a special type of inflammation of the airways. So there is a special type of inflammation in the airways that makes it more responsive, or we can say hyper responsive than non-asthmatics to a wide range of triggers. So here comes the triggers. There are some triggering agents such as um, dust, pollen grains, stress, and many more. We're going to be discussed further. So leading to excessive narrowing with consequent reduced airflow and symptomatic wheezing and dyspnea. Okay, then we will move further. So to summarize or to get an introduction, we can say that asthma is a chronic inflammatory disorder of the airways in which many cells and cellular elements play a role. We will be seeing the role of these cells and cellular elements in the further slide. The chronic inflammation is associated with airway hyperresponsiveness, as we saw in the definition, that leads to recurrent episodes of wheezing, breathlessness, chest tightness, and coughing, particularly at night or early morning. So here they have given the effects of the chronic inflammatory process and which is caused by the many cells and cellular elements. These episodes are usually associated with widespread but variable outflow obstruction within the lung that is often reversible either spontaneously or with treatment. So the significance of this sentence is that these episodes are usually associated with widespread but variable airflow obstruction. The airflow obstruction may not be uniform all over both the lungs, but it may be present in certain of the bronchioles, certain of the airways, and it may not be uh, in the whole of the airways in both the lungs. So it is variable. It is variable from person to person. Okay. Then let us move forward to the risk factors. Okay. The risk factors here, these risk factors in a person makes him more susceptible or uh, more vulnerable to get asthma. Okay, the first one is genetic susceptibility and gene environmental interaction. This is a very important point with respect to homeopathic perspective of seeing diseases. The genetic susceptibility the patient has, which is the which has came from his previous generations, and the gene environmental interactions. So the conditions in which the person has developed or he is facing that environmental conditions. For example, we can say that a person if exposed to cold weather since childhood can be more susceptible to acquire asthma or to show the symptoms of asthma than a person who is growing in a warmer climate. Same we can consider about the family environment. As we consider in homeopathy, the micro environment and the macro environment. Uh, the family environment is also an important. So we can relate the stress factor to this thing. So the genetic susceptibility and gene environmental interaction. The next thing is atopy. Okay, atopy is almost present. The history of atopy is almost present in 80% of the asthma cases. So we must ask for the history of atopy. The persons who have atopy, they are due to genetically determined production of specific IgE antibody. Uh, they show the susceptibility to such kind of diseases. They have genetically determined production of the specific IgE antibody. The patients having atopy may have a history of hay fever or uh, urticaria in childhood or in their families. So there is a history of atopy. Then there are some dietary factors. The diet low in antioxidants, that is vitamin C, vitamin A, magnesium, selenium, omega-3 fatty acids, or deficiency of vitamin D. Uh, the studies have shown that these people having such kind of deficiencies are prone to get asthma. Okay. Also, the dietary factor, obesity, obese people, they are also more susceptible to get breathing obstruction problems. Now, the another point is air pollution. Okay, the air pollution is caused by harmful gases such as sulfur dioxide, ozone, the diesel particulates. They become a risk factors for getting this asthma, getting the trigger. The nitrogen dioxide from cooking stoves and exposure to passive cigarette smoking and indoor pollutants may become important in the air pollution. Okay. Now we can study about the allergens. Now we know that many people are allergic to certain things, allergic to nuts or allergic to pollen grains, allergic to some kind of chemicals. Huh? So allergens also play very important role as a risk factors for developing asthma. Occupational exposure, having chemicals such as toluene or trimetallic anhydrides, or exposure to allergens like we saw that the pollen grains or any chemicals or any other things that the person might have allergen to, and he is exposed due to some kind of occupation. Okay, so that is occupational exposure. So obesity is another point to be considered, because in obese people there is a increased flow pro-inflammatory adipokines, and these pro-inflammatory adipokines, they trigger the process of asthma. So they trigger the process of chronic inflammation. Okay. The other factors that include that having risk for asthma are lower maternal age, the duration of breastfeeding, prematurity, or the low birth weight. Okay. So these are the risk factors the person may have so that he may develop asthma. Okay, let us move forward. Let us move forward to the triggers. Okay. The risk factors are those which are present when present in a person. They may lead to the asthma. Okay. So the triggers are different from the risk factor in the point that they trigger the process of chronic inflammation, or they may cause acute exacerbations. They are the triggers. They trigger the response. They trigger the process. They trigger the acute exacerbation of this chronic disease. Okay. Now the triggers such as are allergens. Allergens which activate the mast cells and which bound IgE directly, leading to the release of bronchoconstrictor mediators. What does these allergens do? Allergens activate mast cells which bound IgE directly, leading to release of bronchoconstrictor mediators. So they trigger the asthmatic attack. The viral infections such as rhinovirus or the coronavirus, they increase airway inflammation with increase in eosinophilic and neutrophilic counts, which also triggers the inflammatory process. The pharmacologic agents such as beta blockers, they increase cholinergic bronchoconstriction. So they may also produce an asthmatic attack. There is another type which is exercise induced asthma, where the hyperventilation caused during exercise leads to increased osmolality in airway lining fluid. Okay, the hyperventilation during exercise leads to increased osmolality in airway lining fluid, which triggers the mast cell mediator release, causing bronchoconstriction. Okay, what does it do? It triggers mast cell mediator release, causing bronchoconstriction. So this may cause an induction of an asthmatic attack. The physical factors such as cold air and hyperventilation, or sometimes laughing, can also be a trigger for an asthmatic attack. Okay. The food and diet. So as we discussed before, some kinds of food may produce asthmatic attack. Air pollution, as we have discussed previously, air pollution which contains the sulfur dioxide, ozone, etc., nitrogen dioxide, may trigger the asthmatic attacks. The hormones such as progesterone and thyroid hormones can also trigger the airway response or the asthmatic attack. In some cases, the gastroesophageal reflux, it also triggers the asthmatic attack. Now the important thing is stress. Stress also triggers asthmatic attack. The stress, it causes the cholinergic reflex pathways which cause bronchoconstriction. Hmm? The cholinergic reflex pathways during stress cause bronchoconstriction. Now, the 2 points which we have observed here, the risk factors and the triggers, to relate it with homeopathy, so we know the ailments from, in a case we try to find the ailments from, which are very useful while treating the case homeopathically. So the triggers and the risk factors, we should find the ailments from in these things, so that we can find a good remedy for the asthmatic patients. Okay, moving forward to pathophysiology. Okay. The pathophysiology of asthma. Here what happens? There is bronchoconstriction. There is constriction of the bronchi. There is constriction of the airflow. There is airway edema. The airway edema is due to the special kind of chronic inflammation present in the airway. So there is bronchoconstriction, airway edema. Also, there is vascular congestion with luminal occlusion, which is due to exudates. Okay, so the vascular congestion is due to the pathological changes occurring as a effect of the chronic inflammation. Also, the luminal occlusion with the exudates. Exudates are also the products of inflammation. So what does these factors do? The bronchoconstriction, airway edema, vascular congestion, luminal occlusion with exudates. These four factors, what they cause? They cause limitation of the airflow. This limitation of the airflow we can see on the, where we can see? We can see it on the spirometry. Huh? Spirometry. So that would be an homework for you all to study the spirometry, because if unless we know the normal volumes and capacities of the lung, we can't understand the disturbance in them. So the limitation of airflow, which can be studied on the uh, pulmonary function test or the spirometry. Okay, the pathophysiology is these four things which cause the limitation of airflow. So what happens? There is early closure of peripheral airway. The peripheral airway causes closed. It gets early closed, and that causes lung hyperinflation. The air is trapped inside the lung. The lung is inflated, and the air is trapped inside, and there is increased residual volume. So this is the basic pathophysiology in case of asthma. Okay, moving forward, the pathophysiology of the asthma is better understood in these three parts: the acute inflammatory process, which has the symptoms of bronchoconstrictions; the chronic inflammation, which causes the exacerbations or non-specific hyperreactivity; and the airway remodeling, which is caused after some period of time after the persistent airflow obstruction is present due to the airway remodeling. So there is acute inflammation, there is chronic inflammation, and due to the long course, there is airway remodeling. The airway remodels itself. We are going to see it further, how it remodels, why it remodels, which causes persistent airflow obstruction. Okay, so again they have revised. Uh, we can see in the slide in the downwards the risk factors or the causes: the genetic predisposition, intrinsic vulnerability, atopy or allergy, which causes the acute inflammation. The inflammation underlies disease process. Phenotype varies by individual and over time. That we have seen that there may be the affection of patchy airway, not the full airway, and this which part is going to affect, it depends upon the individual. Okay, the clinical symptoms also vary by individual and over time. Okay, so this is a very important point related, so we can relate it to homeopathy. The clinical symptoms also vary by individual and over time. Okay, so when we study medicine, we most of the time we relate it to our homeopathic principles. So now we are going to study the pathology. This slide shows some important things, some broad things about the pathology. As we know, asthma is specific chronic inflammation of the mucosa of the lower airways. Okay, so broadly we can, what happens here, what is the pathology? The airway mucosa is infiltrated with activated eosinophils and T lymphocytes, and there is activation of mucosal mast cells. Okay. Also, there is structural changes in airways called as remodeling. That is thickening of the basement membrane due to subepithelial collagen deposition. These are some broad terms. We are going to study them in details. Okay. So as we saw further, uh, the pathology or the pathogenesis, it consists of airway inflammation. The inflammatory process going on the airway is of important while studying the pathology. So what happens? The inflammatory cells present in here are the mast cells, eosinophils, the T helper 2 cells, basophils, neutrophils. Okay, the inflammatory cells present are these, and the structural cells, the cells which are affected, the cells which are affected by these inflammatory cells, the cells which undergo changes due to the inflammation are the epithelial cells, the smooth muscle cells, the endothelial cells, the fibroblast, and the nerves. Okay, the epithelial cells. The epithelial cells are the lining of the airways which undergo changes by increased mucus production. The smooth muscle cells, these are present in the wall of the airways, so they are related with the overexcitation and the contraction, which leads to bronchoconstriction. The endothelial cells present in the blood supply to the airways, which causes the secretion of exudate. Okay, the fibroblast present in the basement membrane, which cause its thickening and its reduction of its elasticity. And the nerves when stimulated cause hyperresponsiveness. Okay, now these inflammatory cells do uh, they undergo changes in the structural cells with the help of these mediators. Okay, these are inflammatory mediators. So what are these inflammatory mediators? Which are these? These are histamines, leukotrienes, prostaglandins, nitric oxide, adenosine, cytokines, chemokines, and growth factors. Okay, let us say once again. These are histamines, leukotrienes, prostaglandins, nitric oxide, adenosine, cytokines, chemokines, and growth factors. So as discussed before, what this cause? The inflammatory cells causing changes in the structural cells with the help of mediators. They cause bronchospasm, plasma exudation, mucus secretion, airway hyperresponsiveness, and structural changes. Okay, this is the basics of airway inflammation in a patient of asthma. The pathogenesis is explained here. The allergen or the virus or the bacteria, it enters the epithelial lining where are the mucus cells present. These celiac cells are the mucus producing cells, which are the goblet cells, which are the goblet cells. When the particle is engulfed inside, it is caught by the dendritic cell. The dendritic cell, when it interacts with the dendritic cell, it stimulates the T helper cells. Okay. Normally in our lung, the type of T helper cell present is T helper 1. Okay. The type of T helper cell present in our lung is T helper 1. But due to the inflammation, due to the allergen coming, the there is production of T helper 2 cells. there is production of T helper 2 cells. So in a asthmatic patient, the level of, there is imbalance in the level of T helper 1 and T helper 2 cells. That is, the number of T helper cells is less than the T helper 2 cells. Okay. Now, as we have mentioned earlier, the T helper 2 cells plays an important role because it activates the plasma cell, which further activates the IgE antibody, the mast cell, and the eosinophil. So the T helper 2 cell, it activates plasma cell, which further activates IgE antibody. The T helper cell, it activates mast cell and also the eosinophil. So this is the pathogenesis. So further we can study in another type, that the antigen, it activates the mast cell. The process is shown previously, and the inflammatory process, this complicated inflammatory process, which involves the mast cell, the neutrophils, eosinophil, macrophages, the B cell, the T cell. These all causes an inflammation which may be acute, subacute, or chronic in nature. Okay, let us move further. So how asthma develops? In short, there are 4 steps: the disease risk, disease induction due to exposure, disease consolidation, and then disease progression. Okay, so this flow chart explains that the susceptible genes or the early life environment, maternal programming, allergens, infections, pollutants, this cause the T helper 2 immune deviation, which leads to chronic inflammation or acute inflammation, which further leads to symptoms or tissue remodeling. The chronic inflammation leads to tissue remodeling, which further again leads to symptoms. So the important thing is T helper 2 cell immune deviation, which causes chronic inflammation or acute inflammation, which leads to the symptoms of the asthma. Okay, moving forwards. Now here we can see the pathology. Okay, the part of a bronchus is taken. So the cross section shows the normal airway, the smooth muscle layer, blood vessels present, the lumen, the mucus lining of the lumen. Okay, so what happens in this obstructed airway? There is contraction of the smooth muscle, which leads to bronchoconstriction. The blood vessels are infiltrated by the immune cells. There is decreased lumen diameter. There is, due to excess mucus secretion, there is inflammation and swelling of the submucosal layer. So these changes occur in the airway in a patient of an asthma. Okay, the normal and the abnormal, where the smooth muscles are contracted, blood vessels are infiltrated by immune cells, the lumen diameter is decreased, there is inflammation and swelling in the submucosal layer, and there is excess mucus production. Okay. Now this is explained further. The mucus lining, the muscular layer, the mucus producing glands, the mucosa, airway, and the submucosa. So what happens during an asthma attack? There is swollen submucosa, the airway narrows, muscle contracts, excess mucus production is there, due to the secretion of mucus from gland, which is increased. Okay, these are the major pathological changes. So the consequences of the pathology, as we have studied before, the smooth muscle mass increases, which causes severe bronchospasm during exacerbation. The mucous glands increase, which causes increased mucus secretion during the exacerbation. The inflammatory cells persistence. The inflammatory cells are continuously present. The chronic inflammation, as we have seen in the definition, it is a special type of chronic inflammation. So the ongoing inflammation continues. The fibrogenic growth factor release, which leads to collagen deposition, and the elastolysis, which causes the reduced elasticity of the airway wall. Okay, reduced capacity to collapse and again refill. This is the reduced elasticity of the airway wall. These are the pathology and consequences. Okay, this was the pathology. Now we understood the why asthma takes place, how it takes place, in what steps, due to which reasons. Okay. Now there are types of asthma: atopic asthma or in extrinsic asthma, non-atopic or intrinsic, occupational, aspirin sensitive, and pediatric. Okay, the major two types, intrinsic and extrinsic of atopic or non-atopic, can be differentiated from the following points. Okay, so the precipitating allergen is not present in intrinsic type of asthma, intrinsic or non-atopic, and it is present and external in extrinsic type of asthma. There is history of allergy, no history of allergy in intrinsic asthma, but the history is present in extrinsic asthma. Family history of eczema, hay fever or urticaria, which shows the predominance of atopy, is absent in intrinsic and present in extrinsic. Age of onset, usually middle age in cases of intrinsic asthma, and usually childhood in present of extrinsic asthma. Allergic skin test, negative in cases of intrinsic asthma and positive in cases of extrinsic asthma. The IgE level is normal in intrinsic asthma due to the local IgE production in types of intrinsic asthma, while it is raised in the extrinsic type of asthma because the systemic levels of IgE are raised. There is systemic production of IgE, while in intrinsic asthma the local production of IgE is present. So these were the differences. Now we further come to clinical features. As discussed below, the main clinical features are the wheezing, dyspnea, coughing or the chest tightness. The symptoms are aggravated at night and early morning hours. There is increased mucus production with tenacious mucus difficult to expectorate. Okay. There is increased ventilation and use of accessory muscles of respiration, which are sternocleidomastoid, pectoralis major, subclavius, pectoralis minor, and serratus anterior. Okay, these names are just for revision, but we can see there is increased ventilation and use of accessory muscles of respiration. As we know, in normal respiration, the accessory muscles of respiration are not needed, not required. Sometimes there may be some prodromal symptoms before the attack comes, before the attack proceeds. Okay. There may be itching under the skin, discomfort between the scapulae, or an inexplicable fear of an impending doom. Okay. Sometimes the prodromal symptoms may be present. These are the clinical features. Further moving to the physical findings. The asthma patient in an asthmatic attack, which he has anxious faces. Patient sits up upright or in stooping forward posture, which he might feel comfortable. The accessory muscles of respiration are very much prominent. The expiratory wheeze is present. Central cyanosis may be present. The respiratory rate is hurried. It is between 25 to 40 per minute or maybe more. Expiration is prolonged and labored. Pulse is rapid and BP may show systolic elevation. Now, as per the protocol, when we inspect the patient's chest, the chest is held in a state of full inspiration. During inspiration, the skin over chest is sucked inside. The palpation, the vocal parameters is slightly increased due to trapping of the air. Apex pit may not be palpable due to the overinflammation. Percussion may show hyperresonant note, and auscultation may show vesicular breath sounds with prolonged expiration. The vocal resonance is slightly increased, plenty of wheezing bronchi, and fewer crepitations. Wheezing is polyphasic, means it is heard in both inspiration and expiration, but is more prevalent during the expiration. Okay, so these were the physical findings. Now, if we come to differential diagnosis, it has been categorized into diseases causing recurrent episodic dyspnea, common diseases causing cough, and common diseases causing airflow obstruction. So, the diseases causing recurrent episodic dyspnea are chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, pulmonary emboli, recurrent GERD with aspiration, recurrent anaphylaxis, systemic mastocytosis or carcinoid syndrome. So they tell us that to differentiate the respiratory asthma from the cardiac asthma. So that would be a homework for you so that you can collect the points to differentiate between respiratory asthma and cardiac asthma. Common diseases causing cough: rhinitis, sinusitis, otitis, bronchitis, bronchiectasis, cystic fibrosis, pneumonia, diffuse pulmonary fibrosis. These are common diseases which cause cough in a patient. Common diseases causing airflow obstruction: the chronic obstructive bronchitis, emphysema, bronchiolitis obliterans, cystic fibrosis, organic or functional laryngeal narrowing, extrinsic or intrinsic narrowing of trachea or major bronchus. Okay, so the symptomatology and the differentiating points we will be learning the respective diseases when we study them. Okay. Now the investigations. Okay, the blood investigations may show eosinophilia. Rarely there may be elevated SGOT, SGPT, LDH and CPK, which are usually raised in cases of inflammatory processes. The sputum may show eosinophils or Charcot-Leyden crystals, Churchman spirals or Laennec pearls. Okay. The X-ray shows overinflammation in acute attack and emphysematous changes. Okay. The PFT findings. Okay. PFT findings is again a homework for you because it needs to be studied with respect to the normal spirometry to understand the changes in the pulmonary function. For a hint, I can give you some points that there is a reduced FEV1, forced expiratory volume. There is reduced ratio of forced expiratory volume to the forced vital capacity, and there is reduced peak expiratory flow. And also we can see that there is increased airway resistance, but that mainly is correlated to you as you study the normal to the abnormal spirometry. Okay, the blood gas analysis may show reduced oxygen pressure, that is reduced SpO2, and increased in PCO2, that is carbon dioxide. The skin test may show allergens, the allergic reaction in cases of atopy. The ECG may show some changes which are related to the ECG shows some changes. The ECG may show changes of tachycardia, or it may show some changes like P pulmonale or right axis deviation or RBBB, that is right bundle branch obstruction or block. So these are some changes in ECG. In cases of asthma, the most important diagnostic criteria is the history and the symptomatic presentation. The investigations play a less important role in diagnosing and case of asthma, but the history and the history of the symptoms, the history of the patient, family history, it is very important to diagnose a case of asthma. Okay, so moving further, the management is what we can say. It we can tell the management part in some points, that is during an attack, management during an asthmatic attack, or in cases of status asthmaticus, which will be our next topic to discuss, and the management in between the attacks. Okay, so that no further attacks should come. So the management during the attack is that the patient is in a bed should be made propped up, propped up position on a back, or sitting up in a chair, or inclined on a cardiac table. The oxygen inhalation is started. Then the inhaled sympathomimetics, that is salbutamol. This is allopathic management or emergency case management. The patient is checked for his airway, the ABC, airway, breathing and circulation. Sometimes if it is related to infection, antibiotics are prescribed. Okay, the management in status asthmaticus and in between attack management we will discuss in the next lecture. The next lecture will constitute of the status asthmaticus, which is a short topic, but it is an important topic because it is a major complication of an asthma. And then we will see the management of asthma with the homeopathic perspective, that is the therapeutics of the asthma. So thank you for your patient listening.